Call to order the City Council work session for the City of East Grand Forks for April 23rd, 2024. City Clerk, please call roll.
Mayor Seeklander.
Here.
Council President Gorte.
Here.
Council Vice President Emery.
Here.
Councilmembers Clarence Sutter.
Here.
Ben Huttunen. Dale Helms.
Here.
Brian Larson.
Here.
Karen Peterson. Here.
Does determine quorum. Number one, consider proposal to replace Sherlock Park billboard with digital billboard. Mr. Huttunen.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members. We've got some progress on our old Cabela's billboard that is located in Sherlock Park. If you remember back, probably last summer, we went through with some work with Minnesota DOT to have that billboard recognized as conforming. And there was a resolution passed that recognized that, and that allows the next step for us to be able to make updates or improvements to the board. We've made some contact with Newman Signs. They've got some representatives here tonight to discuss the potential of having the current billboard completely taken down and have Newman put up a digital billboard in its place. They've proposed a lease agreement that would basically be a ground lease to lease the space. And with that agreement, they would construct a digital billboard about 10 feet tall by 30 feet wide. And in return for the ability to construct a billboard in that space, they've offered a trade of one of the 8 ad spots that would rotate through each minute that could be used for advertising city events or services. There's been some discussion between the mayor and myself about including Cabela's in that to some degree. There's been the current, of course, Cabela's billboard that is up goes back all the way to the initial developers agreement with Cabela's to bring the store here. And there would be, I think, some interest in continuing on that service to them to make sure that they still get some recognition on the board, even though it would be updated to a digital display. So all the steps are in place, and as far as what we need to do with Minnesota DOT to be able to make the improvement, I just wanted to propose the lease agreement to you all today, the few options. There is a cash option listed as well. If we at either at the initial point or at any point over the course of the term of the lease would determine we don't have a desire for the ad space anymore, there's a cash option listed. So I think at this point I would invite Jim from Newman Signs if he has anything he'd like to say, or if there's any questions that you'd like to direct to him as well, you can certainly do that.
Hi, I'm Jim England with Newman Signs. I guess we were kind of approached by Reid because we're familiar with the sign. It is kind of ugly, and I agree. It would need some updating. I mean, it's old and that kind of thing. And he said, hey, we'd like to, do a digital, and what can Newman do? And we'd like to use some of the advertising for the City of East Grand Forks, possibly Cabela's, some of the service clubs, VFW, Legion, that kind of thing. And we looked at it and came up with, proposed an agreement to lease it. We would have to I don't make sure everything's hunky-dory with the state of Minnesota actually apply to continue the outdoor advertising permit with the Minnesota DOT under our name. That would be the big hurdle. I was included with some of the conversations that City of East Grand Forks had with the Minnesota DOT, and it sounds like everything is good that way. That's probably my biggest concern, is that doesn't run into a snag, and we have made an offer. I guess we kind of started with, hey, City of East Grand Forks would like some advertising or a slot. And typically what we do with our digital billboards is we have 7-second advertisements, and there's static ads, no motion, that's not allowed. And we offer up to 8 advertisers on a particular sign face, so everybody's played at least once each minute. So there would be a potential for us to sell the space to 7 other advertisers, having one slot dedicated to the city East Grand Forks, or Cabela's or VFW or who, kind of at your discretion. We wouldn't want you to go after our current advertisers and sell your space to them. We do want to, some kind of limit that it's strictly City of Grand Forks, and with Cabela's being kind of an exemption as an outside business. So, typically our digital billboards, we do like to locate them near stoplights where you have a little more time to see the change. This one isn't there, but looking at it, it's kind of a good spot right on Highway 2 gateway coming in to Minnesota from the North Dakota side. Fairly good traffic count, so we decided to entertain the option. Thought it might be a great idea, and then part of it is, if for some reason you wanted to use some of Newman has approximately 70 digital billboards throughout eastern Minnesota and North Dakota. If you did want to not preach to the choir, so to speak, and wanted to use available space on other spots, we would certainly try to help with that. There may be some locations that it may be harder to get in, whereas this one we're starting fresh and we could allocate, okay, we've got one slot that's always the City of East Grand Forks. The other ones we'd have to work a little bit with current advertisers and that kind of thing, but we would offer that because that did come up as, hey, instead of that slot here, maybe we want to target Crookston for a certain event because we get a lot of people from east of town, or you might want to do something in the Fargo market, for example, or Devil's Lake. So we'd be a little flexible that way, but I guess, and then if for some reason you didn't want to use advertising down the road, we did put a cash option of $2,500 annually payable in advance if, for some reason, hey, we're backing off on promoting things. We have too many people coming to East Grand Forks from the 5 years of digital advertising you did with Newman. So that's kind of where we're at. We did, we were approached, did look like, we would be interested. It would be a decent spot. And trying to help out, I guess, is where we're at. So I'd answer any questions that you may
Maybe you have any questions?
I have one.
Here.
And I've heard the number, but would you please share what is the value of that 1/8 ad on either a monthly or annual basis?
On an annual basis, I based it on, we do have one digital billboard of a similar size in East Grand Forks. On an annual basis, the rate card advertising on that would be $14,040 is what the rate of that slot would be.
So it's dollar for dollar, it's kind of a no-brainer to take the advertising if we think we could benefit from it.
Absolutely.
Much greater value.
It is a greater value, and we're offering a greater value with the advertising. I don't think we'd offer you that much annually in cash.
And the beauty of this idea of going elsewhere, sometimes to just that unexpected ad that you haven't seen in your locale for a while, it might catch your eye. So I can see a value to that also, to the different billboards that you have, maybe sneaking out there on a rotation and then coming back. So thank you.
All right.
Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Helms?
Thank you. Is this something that we could go back and forth year to year on if we want to do the ad or do the rental? I mean, can we do that year to year, or do we, once we decide that we're going to do one or the other, we're with that forever?
Yeah, if, let's say for 2025, you wanted to use advertising, and in 2026, God forbid there's a flood and you're rebuilding. I hate to say that, but, for some unforeseen reason, hey, we'd rather have the cash. No,
Okay.
I'm totally fine with that.
Okay.
And if, like I'm thinking about the first year, it takes a while to order the digital sign face. And it's a big investment on our part, build the structure that You know, it might be such that if we start the lease July 1 or whatever, and you're not getting your advertising right away, you know, we could figure out, hey, well, it's, you know, we owe you X percent in dollars and X percent. I mean, we'd
Sure.
be flexible with that.
Yeah.
Or you could start it up on your other boards too.
Or
at
we
that
could
time.
start up on other boards if
Yep.
if you so desire, I guess that would be.
And then one more question, and it's probably kind of minor, I'm thinking, but the light and the brightness and everything is not going to affect the houses across the road at night. I'm guessing it's going to be turned more toward the west probably than facing.
I think it would be angled exactly like it is now because
Yeah,
it is
so
a
it wouldn't-
grandfathered status sign. And then another thing that we did offer is on the backside that's facing the swimming pool and park,
Uh-huh.
to put up some kind of East Grand Forks message on that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you're looking
Sure.
at metal right now.
Yeah.
Just to put something up that's non-commercial and, you know, it might have a safe summer, City of East
Yeah,
Grand.
the reason I was asking is I know I've been through the intersection and that one gets sometimes pretty bright.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to make sure that it's not going to affect residents, you know, if they're, you know, trying to sleep at night type thing, that would shine too bright or something. I know
It shouldn't because they're all monitored by the ambient light. So during the
Okay.
daytime, the lights are actually brighter even though they may not look that way. And then at night, got a
Yeah.
photo cell in it that they actually dim down. So it's kind of the same. It's not like the daylight brightness shining at night.
Okay. I was just curious, though, if I get it's kind of my ward up in that area, so if I get a phone
Yeah.
call on that, I would have an answer for them.
And,
So,
yeah,
thank you.
and I mean, they would, you know, the people across the street, I guess if they're looking out, I don't think it would be like flashing into them, but
Sure,
I could see it being,
yeah.
yeah, and we might need to look at that
Yeah.
to make sure it's not facing right at somebody. But it is going to be a distance away, you know, the whole width of US 2 or Gateway Drive.
You
Right.
get street lights out there anyway, lots of
Yeah, I
them, so
know,
I don't
but-
think it's gonna affect it at all.
Okay, that's it.
Mr. Vetter?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to put it into perspective, Reid, what's the size of the one that's there now?
The size of the Cabela's board that's there now is 10 foot by 30 foot.
Same size?
Yep, so it'd be the same size.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
If I could, the current sign, the advertising part is 10 by 30, which is what the state permit for, it actually has a very wide green trim, so the size of the sign is a little bigger than what the actual, not the advertised, the Cabela's part, but with the framework, it is actually a little bigger.
Okay.
But with the state permit, they do not incorporate trim into the sign size, so, and we wouldn't put any trim on a digital billboard and make it bigger. So if you go out and measure it, it is larger end to end and top to bottom than 10 by 30, but the actual advertising is 10 by 30, so.
Good, thank you.
All right. Appreciate it. Guess we'll move it on to next week. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the next step will, if there's interest in moving forward with this, Jim has not provided plans to planning and zoning yet. So
Okay.
we'll run that through Nancy, through planning and zoning. Mr. Helms, to your question, those are things that Nancy will look at with planning and zoning, setbacks and requirements and lights and so forth. So we'll do that before we bring it to the council for approval, just to make sure we can do it all in one motion.
That's good.
Sounds good to me.
I like it.
All right. Anything else on that?
I should say one more thing. Megan, she got the dominoes to start to tip with the state, and thank you for that. And then Reid came and really pushed it the rest of the way, so good job to our staff to bring it to this point. Thank you. Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you.
sir. Move on to number 2, informational presentation on Red River State Recreation Area. Mr. King.
Thank you, Council President, City Council, and Mayor. Make sure this turns on here. There we go. 2024 celebrates the 20th anniversary of the Red River State Recreation Area. Catherine Johnson, the park manager, is here with us today to give us a presentation about reservation statistics, the user groups that are coming into town to use the campground, any economic impacts that it has, a look back at 2023, and what we can look forward to in 2024. Catherine has been with the state rec area for 16 years. Her first 3 years were as a lead office worker, and then the last 13 has been as the park manager. So she's almost been there since the inception of the park. And as you'll see probably through this presentation, that Catherine takes great pride and ownership in the state rec area, and we're lucky to have her. So with that, I'll turn it over to Catherine.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and City Council, for adding time for my pictures today. I like my pictures. So this is a presentation I hope you guys like, and learn a little bit more of what's going on down there. So like Jeremy said, it's the 20th anniversary, so this year is going to be very exciting. The fact that we already opened is good too. So at first, the details from last year, like I said, we were delayed a little bit because of the floodwaters. The water, the bathrooms were delayed a little bit, but we still had over 100,000 visitors, which is the third highest since we opened. My staff and I were really hoping to break the record last year. I know Reid and I were watching in July, we were like up there, and then we kind of just not sure what happened there, but we're going to break it this year. And the sales in the office, so this helps you kind of understand what revenue is going to be, split is going to be coming your guys' way. Hopefully it should be, because by our numbers, we did a lot more sales in the office, and that's just the office sales, not the reservation or the call center, or permits online, or even the firewood, since they changed it to all online. So that was a big increase. I know we kept running out of permits, and we had to keep ordering permits. We sold 119 more. I like the fact that area residents come and buy their permits from our office before they go to Itasca or other places. So because they make sure the money stays right here. And then even the daily permits for people entering was 413 more. So that's crazy when you look at it. You're selling, it's just a little receipt, but over 2,000 dailies. And then Jeremy's got this part.
On the economic impact side of thing, on the average of 3 years, the annual attendance was over 77,000, which is a pretty impressive number. There was the DNR did a study back in 2022, and they figured that we had an economic impact of almost $3 million of economic impact to our region from hosting the campground. And out of the 15 parks in the northwest area, the Red River State Recreation Area is the largest profiting campground, and that includes Itasca. So pretty impressive. We're lucky to have it.
And this just kind of shows some of the trends for numbers. The same little presentation a little bit that I'd done a few years ago. But there's a little graph we follow, and we'd already marked our little dots up higher, but if I kept adding it for this year, it just kept increasing the numbers. But when I do this presentation next time, or it's going to be way up there, we're hoping. So who's camping there? If anybody's been in the office there, we have a huge map that the visitors put pins in. We need a new map because pins are falling out because people keep wanting to put them in. And it's almost every state. And we even get them from different countries. We've had people from, Spain, and we had ones that traveled through from Switzerland, go through on Highway 2. So, and then it kind of shows out, for the 4th of July is the one I took, is actually, because with Canadians holiday on the July 1st, we had more Canadians, but once it goes down to North Dakota, Minnesota, then there's also 13 other states, so we get a lot from the south. And then what brings people in is the Music Fest, which they're already calling about. They finally hit the date when they can book. But otherwise, people come for the trails and being close to downtown, but still in nature. And some of the people that lived in that neighborhood come back, and I help them find where their house or their grandma's house used to be, because we have different maps in the office too that overlay. So that's kind of fun. And on Sunday mornings, you want to make sure you eat before you patrol, because you can smell bacon everywhere. So, and then still the location is the largest draw. And there's just some numbers that, just to remember that, you know, the rec area is more than the campground. It's 103 acres. There's a new trail we added in too that that'll come up on a different slide, sorry. It includes the Eagle Point Boat Launch, which we should be getting the new floating dock in this summer. River Heights Trailhead that has those shelters are rentable. We have shore fishing right across from there, right on River Road there. And also within the rec area, there's the 8 Bluebird boxes that are monitored, and I check them every Monday. Wood duck boxes, bat roosting boxes, everybody's favorite. And then also since we're part of Minnesota, we have the Passport and the Hiking Club. And the hiking club, I think the trail might be changing a little bit, but those books are available in the office, and we have a lot of people coming in because they want to get their stamp for every park, because then they get rewards. So, and for the Eagle Scout projects, that's we get quite a few. These two were from Troop 130 from Grand Forks, and so the first one is the new nature trail, which the first time that we went to go and kind of look at it, and even when some from the DNR were here, there was already a deer going down the trail, so it works. So nature, they know where to go. So, but this is also a big deal because she's in the blue on the right-hand side picture, on the right hand. She is the first female Eagle Scout in the Grand Forks area. I don't know if it covers East Grand Forks, but she was the first one. And they were both really good projects. The bottom one is the wood duck boxes that we did this spring. And then, I think this is the last one, is their programs and events. Trying to do a little bit more this year. We used to have more, and then COVID kind of ended that, and trying to get back in there. But with it being the 20th, I wanted to kind of push to remind people that, you know, it is a state recreation area, but you can still go down there. I've heard people that used to live down there, they say, oh, I can't go down there, that's a campground. Yes, you can. And actually, there's a book in the office there where people can read or write down their memories from when they lived down there, and people look at that and like, oh, I knew this person and things like that. So hopefully on June 8th, I'm going to be doing a little bit of the history of the rec area in the neighborhood that was now Sherlock Campground, and how you can still see the sidewalks and in different places, and you can still, people look for their tree. Other programs that I have coming up is we're going to do archery in the park more than once this year, and you can see the other ones there. So, and thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Catherine. And we'll just open it up if there's any questions.
I know that if you ever have a crazy weekend and you want to stop and say hi to Catherine, it wouldn't hurt if you bring her a little bottle of Dr. Pepper. She likes that. So thanks for all you do down there.
Bring a big one.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I can, you know, the pride that you have and the commitment that you have and the years you've been with us. Thanks for all of that. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or? Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On to number 3, consider upgrade to SCADA system. Mr. Stordahl.
So our SCADA system is a system that monitors our stormwater and wastewater lift stations. It's a software, hardware system whereby we can control things, see when there's any issues, alarms, issues with pumps, stuff like this. We've been working with Integrated Process Solutions for many years now. They're a company that handles this. They have expert engineer staff that works with SCADA. Anytime we have a major issue, they've been very reliable and dependable coming down. In some cases, even staying the night in lift stations with our staff, making sure everything works decent. So what I'm asking for tonight is approval to hire IPS and their engineers to work with WSN and develop plans and specs for an upgrade of the system. The stuff, the SCADA system components at our stormwater lift stations, a lot of that has not been upgraded since they put it in after the 97 flood. And then the stuff in the wastewater lift stations, it has been upgraded, but obviously it's used a lot more. So it's kind of a two-part approval, I guess. If the council so chooses to move forward with plans and specs, and contingent on awarding the bids for the actual parts and installation, I'd be asking for approval to have IPS provide all the necessary programming and field services once that's done. I have the cost listed there on the request, but it would be roughly from IPS $115,920 to do the plans and specs, and about $180,400 to do the field stuff and the programming. In your proposal, you might see that there was another portion of it. The water treatment plant also works with IPS. They're going to need to do an upgrade down the road, but at this time, they do not want to move forward, I guess, with their portion. Their system's just newer, so it's not really in need of it. We most likely, with this upgrade, if we did an upgrade, a lot of the computer SCADA portions of it that are housed in Public Works would probably be moved either to the water treatment plant or possibly DSC. It's just the environment has less dust, be easier access for water and light to work on. IPS, I'll add, also works very closely with Corey over at the Water and Light Department with this system. So with that, I'll leave it for questions.
Questions from anyone? So if we don't do it, what are the consequences?
It's not good. We're going to have probably a lot of issues with wastewater backup, and during flood times, we may miss some pretty substantial warnings that we need to address at lifts. So could be flooding, whatnot, if the pumps aren't working. So it's pretty critical.
Anybody else have anything? I see none, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Move on to number 4, review of bid results for 23 City Project number 5, Sidewalk and Multi-Use Trail Extension. Mr. Emery. We can skip you if you want.
Good evening, Council. So we opened bids April 8th for the Sidewalk Multi-Use Trail Extension Project. We received a total of 2 bids, with the apparent low bidder being Q3 Contracting, out of Little Canada, Minnesota. Their bid was approximately 31% below my engineer's estimate, so felt pretty good that I was moved low bid for once. So again, I think we got good bids. We don't have a lot of experience with Q3 contracting, other than 2 years ago, if you remember, Xcel Energy had a big gas main project that kind of came through the downtown area, and Q3 did all of their concrete restoration work. So I did work with them on that project. They were, very good to work with, seemed to do good quality work. Again, this isn't a real complicated project, so, I'm confident that they would be able to, provide a quality project for what we're looking for. Again, the project, funding-wise, we do have the carbon reduction funding program, which is an 80-20 split. So right now I'm estimating about $101,000 in grant dollars, and then we would have about $59,000 that we pull out of state aid maintenance funds. So that's kind of how the project would be funded. Right now, the contractor was required to submit to the Office of Civil Rights kind of documentation that, during the bidding process, they solicited to, minority, women type disadvantaged business enterprise businesses. So they kind of have to, prove that they did that during the bidding process, and Office of Civil Rights is reviewing that. The contractor did get it submitted late yesterday, so again, once we basically get the green light from Office of Civil Rights, then we're good to move forward with awarding the project too. So, before we have our May 7th council meeting, we'll definitely have that. So, again, our recommendation, I think, is going to be to move ahead with Q3 contracting. So,
Can we not approve it on condition that they get their approval from the civil, from that, so it doesn't have to come back?
what's that?
Can we not approve this next week, saying as long as they get their approval?
Council meeting next week.
Okay, so 2 weeks, whatever, 3 weeks.
And again, I'm confident that we'll hear back before that May 7th council meeting. So.
I was just say, I mean, if it takes them a while to get back, why don't need to hold it up? Okay.
I anticipate we'll probably hear from Office of Civil Rights either late this week or maybe next week, so.
Sure. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Emery? Mr.
I just wanted to make a note that they were high bid on everything.
Oh, you should have been a little bit.
Yeah, the other two were both lower than you, so that's a positive.
Right.
I'm sure he appreciates you pointing that out. There you go.
Thank you.
All right, move on to number 5, request of lot donation from Community Land Trust Homes, No Star Neighbors. Mr. Huttunen.
All right, thanks again, Mr. President and council members. Since our discussion a couple of weeks ago at the work session, I've had some good follow-up with Mr. Corey Bushy, who you recall was here to present on what a community land trust model looks like. He has indicated, kind of follow-up from that discussion, that they would be interested in building as many as 4 homes. It would be in 2025 would be when they would look to build. He needs to, if they're going to be able to move forward with a request of any nature, within the next month, he'd like an approval from city council on a donated lot price of a certain value, so that he can submit an application to Minnesota Housing in the month of June of this year. The discussion that I've had with Corey has been around 4 lots. We've looked at with city staff, looked at lots that are currently available for sale within our Water's Edge Second Edition. Familiar with that part of the re-subdivision. That's the easternmost end of kind of the golf course development. There's a few duplex lots sort of in the middle of that, and then single-family homes wrapped around the exterior road of that subdivision, highlighted in purple on the map that was included in your packet. In order for the application to be reviewed as favorable by Minnesota Housing, Corey has indicated that a donation of at least $10,000 from the city would go a long way to show that they have a valued and interested partner in the city to make this work from an affordable housing standpoint. So I've included the lots that we've suggested and what the lot prices would look like. I say $10,000, and that made Mayor Gander giggle a little, but I will try to explain that a little bit, what that looks like in comparison to other lots we currently have for sale right now. The lots for sale for anybody that would come in from the public right now are all discounted at a rate of $8,700. And that is a discount using a down payment assistance fund that the city has in place. Probably a year or so ago, if my memory serves me correctly, the EDA at the time said we don't have anybody using our down payment assistance program because there's so few potential property buyers that qualify. Let's take the fund, the down payment assistance fund, and spread it across all available lots in that area to bring down the price of the lot for sale. So we essentially, $8,700 of this $10,000 donation, we're extending to North Star neighbors the same that we would any other person that would come in to buy a lot. And so that'll be extended, and then we're really looking at a difference of about $1,300 that the city would need to come up with or be willing to sort of contribute as a donation towards this effort. At the price proposed inside that $10,000 donation, the asking price we would have for North Star neighbors would be enough to cover all special assessments that are still owed on the property and clear about an additional $2,000. So each lot would clear $2,000 above and beyond the special assessments. So we'd have 13 we need to donate. We'd be collecting an additional $2,000 in the sale. In the end, the city's still coming out pretty close to even on this deal. By proposing that price. That extended offer, Corey and I have had a number of back and forths on, and he's indicated that if the city council is willing to move forward with that, he'd be happy with that and being able to make a grant application in Minnesota housing of that nature. Some details on pricing there. I do have a statement. Corey couldn't be here tonight, but he did send an email he wanted me to read. I'll read through that, and then I think I'd open it up for any questions that anyone would have. So his email was, with the donation of 4 lots from the city in the Water's Edge Second, North Star neighbors will construct single-family homes. The homes will have been designed and constructed to achieve a fair market value that is in line with this neighborhood. We expect fair market value of homes we construct to be nearing the $400,000 or maybe more. North Star neighbors will leverage land donation from East Grand Forks to access funding from Minnesota Housing to create ownership opportunities affordable to households with incomes around $80,000 annually using the Community Land Trust model. The sale price to the home buyer would be an estimated $200,000 sale price for the home. North Star neighbors would identify a builder to assist as the general contractor, and we'll look for a builder familiar with the market. With the builder, we'll identify the size of the homes that make the most sense, likely looking at homes that range from 1,600 to 2,200 square foot, minimum of 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and a 2-stall attached garage. If the council would like to put in place some parameters around size, number of bedrooms, etc., I am open to that conversation. And then I would just maybe extend that a little bit further, talking about the size of the home. Mr. Gallstead, Miss Ellis, and I, we visited a couple of times today. In the Water's Edge First Edition, the neighboring properties right next door, there are covenants listed on those. The building covenants listed for sort of the interior homes that are not directly neighboring or backyarding the golf course itself, they have building restrictions or size requirements of a single-story ramble-style structure not less than 1,400 square feet, 2-story structure not less than 1,900 square feet, and if it's a tri-level or bi-level, split-level style home, not less than 2,500 square feet. Corey, in discussing those parameters with him today, he was fairly agreeable to those, thinking that those fit within that 1,600 to 2,200 square foot that he suggested. His only request would be if we're going to put restrictions in a deed restriction type environment on that if they look to build a bi-level or a split-level style home rather than 2,500 being the minimum requirement, he asked if 2,200 would be agreeable. He thinks that they can build still affordable homes that fit within their proposal and can turn around and be affordable to the home purchaser with those parameters in place. So with that, certainly open to any questions or discussion or direction you may have.
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Ripa?
They're not talking all 4 homes for 2025, are they? Just 1 or 2?
His intent would be to build
all 4.
Yeah, as many as possible. If they can find contractors able to build, they would like to build them all in 25.
Larson.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate the overview of how the numbers all work. That's very helpful. I think it's important to clarify, especially for the public, that the way I see it, this isn't a donation of a lot. It's a slight discount to a potential bulk purchaser.
Correct.
Does that align?
Yep, it does.
And I think from the EDA side, and Mr. Gorte may have this information, we've offered a discount on the purchase of multiple lots in the past.
Yes,
And what was that discount?
10% on 4 lots that was authorized by council.
Okay. So this isn't far off from what we've done before with more of a standard private development, when you think of it just from a dollars and cents perspective. But it's important to know that it's not a donation of lots, just a slight discount. Correct. So I think that's important. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing to consider, and the numbers all work out. The specials are paid for. We end up with a slight profit that covers the discount in the end, and then we get 4 new single-family homes in our community that are most likely occupied right away due to the price point. So I think it's a really exciting opportunity. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Mayor?
To your point exactly, 4 homes on the tax rolls and 4 lots out of our inventory. A business that we don't want to be part of anymore is residential lot sales. So the closer we get to the finish line on that, the happier we're all going to be also. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think what you presented, going through the numbers, like Mr. Larson said, figuring out that, we're still going to be fine. I think it's a great program. They want to come in and do it. I'm all for it. Whatever the next steps are, we have to go through. I mean, what we have to do, I guess, is what's the plan, and I guess what is going to be the layout of how long it'll take. Because if he wants to go forth next month or June, whatever.
Yeah, I've had some discussion with Mr. Galstead and Ms. Ellis. I think the next step would be we would want to look at some form of drafting a deed restriction or part of the sale documents that would list those agreeable requirements for building the home itself, the size requirements, to make sure that that's clear and upfront for everybody in front of us. I would look to, in May, if it can't be ready for the May 7th, certainly by the May 21st meeting, have it on the council agenda to approve the sale price that we'd have agreed to here. So at the very least, then Corey has what he needs to be able to move forward with an application.
Anybody else have any questions on that? I see none, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Move on to number 6, review the $100,000 builder incentive program. Mr. Gorte.
In a similar vein, Mr. Galstead, Mr. Josh Grindy, who's president of the EDA, and myself have been approached by builders who would like to build homes. We used to have the $100,000 program as a builder incentive. The program was originally designed or thought to encourage spec homes. The way it actually works in almost every case is a person who wants to build a home will contact the builder. The builder will buy the lot. The monies are used to purchase materials and supplies for the construction of the home. It's a 0% interest, and at the time the home is closed on, the city is made whole on that. And we had to suspend the program last year because we did not have the money to run the program. We have found some funds to do it within the 280 account that will allow the funding of 3 homes. But Mr. Galstead, Mr. Grindy, and I have heard from as many as 8 builders, and there are not very many lots in the East Grand and the whole Grand Forks area that are available right now. What we'd like to do is not just do the 3 homes and have you reauthorize that program, but be able to authorize an additional 5 loans that would be taken out of an account, such as, for example, from our reserves, because what they are is we will have a credit in the reserves that goes against it. So it's not an expenditure. It's just a loan out of the program, and this will encourage the sale of the last of the lots more quickly, as we just talked about.
Yep.
With that comment, my question would be right away is, if you're tying that money up, it's not in our reserves. Let's say we're not getting it paid back until it's done and sold.
Well,
So it's essentially tied up. So are we willing to go and have roughly 7% of our reserve tied up in that $500,000? I guess is something that we need to look at.
depends on how much we want to encourage the construction of the homes.
I don't
to
think
get rid
that's
of
the
the
point.
lots.
The point is how we need to make sure that we're looking at our reserves and saying, okay, where are we at with the reserves? Is this something that we want to tie up at least 7% of our reserves in this program? So I think that's the main question, is that if we want to do that, is that something that we are being smart in taking care of the citizens' money? And I get to understand that we can get, if we have 8 builders and you have them signed up right now to do something great, having some interest in it, I get it. But I think we need to be really smart if we really want to tie this up.
That's a policy decision. You have to let us know where you want to go with it.
Better?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm kind of confused. How many builders do we have out there that owe us $100,000 now?
0.
Then how does the fund run out of money? If it's a loan, it should be coming back to us.
You want to?
It's okay if I explain fund? Thank you. It's in the 280 fund, and in the past, and currently, tax abatements come out of that fund. Our tax abatements have been higher in the past. They've been about $45,000 the last couple of years. And so that depleted the 280 fund. We also had those housing incentives, which they are coming to an end. So if they didn't stay in that home for 10 years, they had to pay them back. So that increased our fund balance in that fund. And then we also sold more lots. So then the lots have actually increased that fund. So now in that fund today, we have $196,000 in there. And when we talked with the ADA, the down payment assistance program is now tied with the lot sales, where we reduced the price by $8,700. And the $8,700 is coming out of the down payment assistance fund. So those two together come up with $376,000. So that's where they're talking about those 3 homes at $100,000. So the increase in that fund has been from the sale of the lots in the last year.
So I'm thinking we've got too many incentive programs out there. The $100,000 sounds like it's a great program, and the money comes back and you don't lose it, you just keep cycling it through. So stick with that one and do away with all the other programs then. Then we don't have to come up with money every year.
So you're talking about the tax rebates then?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, is it through 2026?
Well, the property tax rebate program, the authorization by the council goes through homes that will be built through 2026, but the last expenditures for the rebates by the time they cycle through the tax system will be in the area of 2030 or 2031.
So you're not going to have money in this fund to do anything because you need it there to cover the property tax rebates.
And the property tax rebate is not just for city-owned lots. The property tax rebate program is for all lots that are built inside the city. And that's been one of the difficulties with that fund, Mr. Vetter.
I understand, but I mean, it's a draw. So you got to decide how you want to spend that money. You can't spend it 3 ways come Sunday.
The other thing that comes out of there is a $500 landscaping incentive that you can have $500 per property. And we do have some people that use that.
It's less than $10,000 per year in that program, yes.
Anything else, Mr. Miller?
Yeah, no, I'm just, until that fund gets replenished and there's enough there to cover all the property tax rebates, I'm not in favor of starting up the $100,000 anymore. Thank you.
Mr. Repel?
How'd we come up with the $100,000 figure?
That was a number that the EDA in discussions chose a few years ago.
And you could do 75,000, do 4 houses instead of 3. So you could lower the amount. We still got to find the funds for it.
And think when they're talking about this, they're only talking for this next year, correct? When the EDA just asked to extend the $100,000 or $75,000 for the 1 year, and then they would look at it again next year. And most homes are being sold within 12 months, so it might run that we might get paid back in July from the last year, but then we, in essence, could loan it out again come August, if they decide to run the program again.
Essentially, you're running into your construction season. If this thing, they don't get paid back till next July, they're not going to start a house in August. So, I mean.
Well, they could start the house and knowing that
Yeah.
they could get the money later, and then they just submit the bills.
They submit the bills and we reimburse them based on their submittals. They could put foundations in the autumn and then do the framing and then do the completion through the winter season and be complete by next spring too.
What else does the city, out of the city coffers, go into the EDA?
To your question, Mr. President.
What else does the city subsidize to EDA? I mean, we know we subsidize your salary. Is there anything else that goes in there?
The entire EDA operating budget comes out of operating funds from the city.
Right.
Which is about $226,000 a year. I know I did talk to Reid today about that $500,000 for 5 additional homes that they're talking about. That a suggestion would be that we use Sunshine Terrace funds to do the loan. There's $1.6 million in that fund, and it's tied with the EDA, it's tied with the housing. That would just be a suggestion that we could use those funds for those additional 5 lots.
There are various sources that the money could come from.
And then it wouldn't be out of your, part of your fund balance out of the general fund. And you could do 75 there again, just take the 500,000 and you could do more. We know that there's been 8 that have asked, and maybe if we gave out 75, we could get 10. I'm not sure.
Mayor.
Of the 8 potential homes that could be built, Paul, how many individual contractors would we be dealing with in the 8?
We could do anywhere from 1 to 8 contractors.
Okay. So in other words, we would say if someone wanted to do all 8, they could do all 8, one contractor?
We would handle the contractors on a first come, first serve. We would hope that there would be multiple contractors, but it's not something that we would necessarily tell somebody no because you already have 2 or 3 contracts. Unless the council unless the council wished us to do that.
I would feel, if we were going to go ahead with something like this, I'd feel better with more contractors than less. So you could limit each contractor to, say, 2 of these or some number that we all agree upon. In other words, if one contractor has all 8 and that ship sinks, there goes our $800,000.
Well, it's all secured by mortgages.
I get that, but if you're behind some other, we're not in first position, are we?
No, we would not be in first position.
Correct.
But the value of the home would be sufficient to cover.
I get it, unless they move it around and it goes, yeah, I've seen it go like that. So the more contractors that we had, I think the more likely we would be to get all of our money back. And I have no concern, when you buy real estate with cash, it's just moving around on your balance sheet. So you still have the equity. I love real estate is a good, valuable investment. So I have no concern about if you have a reputable contractor, again, that you know how they operate, and they wanted to do this, you would be in a very solid position. But I would be a little concerned if one tied up all 8. I would rather see maybe a limit of 2 per contractor, or maybe they finish and repay and they can come right back and take another. Fine.
That's what we have done in the past, is finish and repay before they can do it.
That's
Because
fine. They
we have
can
a
do
limit on how many
100.
loans
Yeah.
that we would do.
Yep. And I guess my last thought on this too is, I don't like that a fund is depleted by tax rebates, right, that we give to our new homes that are built. And yet if those are really a strong motivator for people to build in our community, we would want to have that discussion more thoroughly than to say, yeah, that depletes our fund, we're not doing that. So I think that would require a more deliberate discussion. If it's a big motivator, if people are building in our community largely because of that rebate, which is a cool thing. You know, when you first buy a house, you're going to finish your landscaping, you're going to buy appliances, you're going to do a bunch of stuff. That little rebate that comes 3 years of full tax, that's enormous to finish those random things when you built. So I like it if there's a way to keep it, and if we believe it's really motivating to the people when they build to be more enticed to build here.
The EDA has discussed that and expressed concern for that over the years as well.
Yep.
Because they're cognizant of that.
Yep.
They're aware that the program extends citywide, it's not just city lots, and that there is no funding source over the long term to deal with this. And when we sell all of our lots, there is no revenue source.
Yep. So we'll just either plan to have the revenue stream or be faced with having to discontinue that. Thank you.
I just have one question. What is the timeline on finishing these houses?
Most of the homes that we've seen, they have, from the time of when they first apply for the program and get the loan, or get approval for the loan through the time they close on it, is in the area of 10 to 13 months.
Just maybe to add to that answer, I think the loan agreement says that 18 months, if it's not paid back in full, then we'd start applying interest to the loan. It's no interest for 18 months and 4% after. If that gives you a little addition of timeline of the parameters in place.
We've never had one go anywhere close to 18 months.
We had one that put the $1,000 down and didn't do it, and we paid him back, right? Or he paid us back, right?
I don't understand. One.
They put $1,000 earnest money down, and we had one that backed out, decided not to build, and lost the $1,000, right?
We've had several people who've lost their $1,000 over time.
I remember one for sure.
Yeah, we've had several people who've lost it because that was part of the sales agreement. If they didn't move forward, they would lose their money, their earnest money.
And they haven't all been contractors. A lot of them are individuals.
Those were all individuals.
Yes, it wasn't a contractor.
No contractors on that.
Mr. Larson?
Yeah, a question for Carla on the use of the Sunshine Terrace funds. Does that meet all of our policies and our permittable use of internal loans, or how those Sunshine Terrace funds were meant to be used? Just curious on your thoughts there from your role.
I'm not aware of any restrictions on using those funds. When Reid and I talked about it, I just thought it's an EDA fund, it's a housing fund, it's under the control of the city, so, we could use that in any way. We don't have a lot of improvements at this time that we're going to need the money, right, Nancy? Because we did the roof not many years ago. We have small improvements, normal improvements every year. We put in the sidewalk last year, so that was paid for. So I don't foresee a lot of expenses in the next year or two, so that was one reason that we talked about that fund.
And then just a follow-on question is, do we have a city policy? I'm just curious about internal loans and, is there an interest rate applied to it, things of that nature?
In the past, we have had loans in the general fund. There was Pierce Head Development just north of where the old Liberty Lanes was, and they did pay us back within so many years. But the general fund did have a loan out to them.
How about internal, like between city, from like department to department, or within departments? If we were to move dollars around and expect it to be paid back, have we assigned like even a modest interest rate? I'm just curious what like the accounting best practice is there.
At year end, in our annual comprehensive report, there'll be some funds that are in the negative at year end, and so in the report we have to say that the general fund is in essence covering this balance with the intent that either in the next year or years to come, that deficit will go away. And we've always worked on that. So we really haven't had a fund that's ever been in the deficit for more than a year or two, or it's just kind of a timing issue of when money comes in.
That's helpful. Thank you. I guess then just lastly, for my role on the EDA, I mean, I think everyone understands we're trying to be a bit more aggressive in moving these lots here. I think these programs certainly help. I know that the tax abatement program works as somebody who, one of the reasons I decided to move to East Grand Forks was for those programs. And so, but of course we need to be responsible with our funds above all, but hopefully there's a way to make this work. And then if we have to retire the tax abatement as we run out of selling lots, well, I think we should still have a party at the end of that anyway. You know, that's good. So, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I just, for one thing, why I'm bringing up the question about the reserves and kind of making comments about it, it was, do we know what we're going to have, anything coming out of the reserves here before the end of the year that we're going to have to account for? Or are we going to, I mean...
The only thing that we're aware of now is that there was a repair to that Volvo payloader that we had, and that was about $55,000. But we do know that for 2023, that we do have significant savings over our budget because of personnel changes and such, so that we do know our fund balance will be a lot higher than we expected for 2023. And we'll have some more closer numbers here soon, and I'll have a report by the 1st of June. But, you know, we can easily say it'll be $600,000-$700,000. We saved $427 just on personnel.
So we're not going to have any deductions in our reserves. No. We're not going to have to move money out of reserves to cover anything else.
Correct.
I'd rather make sure that's what we're getting in before we make a decision. I mean, just my thoughts.
I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. The EDA at their meeting last week approved up to 3 to be used with the 280 fund and the down payment assistance funds. We don't have any current applications. We've got community chatter about people being interested, but we haven't received any formal applications. So I think we have the time to take a few weeks, 3 weeks, to look at the total liability against our tax abatement program to the best of our knowledge through 2030, as Paul's saying. We're taking educated guesses at those because we're kind of going to have to look at and guess what the assessed values of these homes will be. But I think we could put together a spreadsheet that takes a closer look at what the liabilities are against those accounts, and then bring back some more solid information about what our general fund balance for 2023 year end would look like. And that hopefully would give you guys more information at the next work session to look at this with a little bit more solid information in front of you. And in the same time, Paul, to your point with builders, we still have three that we've said we can fund, and that shouldn't stop applications from coming in. And if we get, in the next 3 weeks, we get overloaded with applications from interested builders, well, that's more information available to all of you to have in front of your disposal to make a decision.
So what we'll need on May 7th is the reauthorization of the 3 that were previously allowed.
I appreciate that, Reid. I think that we need that information. We need to have that to even make a, educated, decision of how we're going to handle this. I appreciate that. Anybody else have anything on that? All right, move on to the next one. Consider a special archery hunt. I don't know who's heading this one up. Administration, parks, and police.
Everybody's coming. I think if Megan's stepping up, let's let Megan start. She's carried the legwork on this project for us.
Okay. So looking at the RCA, we had a bit of a disconnect with the DNR. Somebody took an unexpected leave of absence and never set a note of office, and we didn't get that information until recently, so that's why we were a little bit delayed and why there's a little bit of a rush to this. So when we talked about this at the end of February, council seemed interested in at least having staff look into this and move this along a little bit. For those of you, I did not include it in the packet, but I did hand out maps of the 5 proposed areas of a possible hunt. If you guys are interested, those would be included as an exhibit of the management plan. Now, finally talking to the DNR, the only thing that they would need from us at this time is the actual application. The management plan is not something that is required, but it is something I think that we should use as a guideline, as an educational piece, just so we have, something to look back on and give to people and, use it as our own resource. That being said, there's going to be a few departments involved if the council wants to move forward with this. First being, the police department would be the ones that would issue the permits. We would do, or what we're proposing at this time would be like a lottery system for residents. You have to live within the city limits to be allowed to be a part of this archery hunt. There would be a mandatory orientation put on by the Parks Department, and that's where you would also have to show your proficiency with shooting archery. So we are confident in your skills, and so then you also know the ins and outs and know where you will be hunting. We would have 2 hunters per location, so this first time it would only be up to 10 permits if we have interest. At this time, we're suggesting a $20 fee. We had looked at actually a higher fee, but the DNR had suggested keeping it at 20 or possibly lower, just because sometimes even as a $20 permit does scare some people away. We're looking at, if allowed, we would do 10 days the second half of November, so it would be after rifle season is over. It'd be the time of year where there won't be as many people using the trail systems, and obviously we would have a lot of education for the residents, getting information out there, letting them know what would be taking place. Again, we would start with the 10 permits, kind of work through the process, work out the kinks, make sure it's manageable. And to reduce the population, we would aim for antlerless, but allow one hunter the possibility of a buck or a doe. So with that, I guess what questions do you have? Are you interested? I had included the management plan. A lot of it is based on what Red Lake Falls already did. The proposed ordinance changes in there are based on what Red Lake Falls has. I have not had Mr. Gulstead review it just yet, so we would obviously have time before a hunt would take place. We would have time to make the changes to the ordinances and do what we need to do there. But due to our shortness of time, this application would have to be turned in by tomorrow. Just because we turn in an application, it's not a definite a hunt will be taking place. If something happens or we choose not to move forward with this, it would be advertised as a hunt through the DNR, but we would just not issue any permits for it. So just because if this was approved, it's not an end-all be-all where we would absolutely have to have a hunt. So.
Well, I appreciate all the work you've done on this, Megan. I know you struggled to get a hold of people there and finding out no one's there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd be interested if, at least going forward and getting the application done and then working through everything else.
Okay.
How long has Red Lake Falls had it?
I want to say they've probably had theirs for over about 10 years, because I think the draft or the management plan I saw from them, I believe, was from 2013, 2014, right around there.
Mr. Larson?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the application as well. I think as we learn more, we'll have questions about public safety and how to keep, kids in particular, off of some of the trails that are in the woods there, which I know are really popular, even into November. But I'm sure we'll come up with a good plan there, and we'll discuss it in more detail as it goes. But I think we should get the application in and heading in the right direction.
Mr. Reid?
Governing rules and bodies are from the DNR. They're going to handle if there's a problem, they'll take care of it.
So we would have to issue a permit. I think if there was an issue, we would probably, our police department might also be involved with that. But they would, a hunter would still have to report their, get the tags and stuff from the DNR.
Yeah, but a poacher would go through police and DNR, I'm assuming.
Yes.
They'll see someone out hunting and go, hey, we can go hunting here.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Megan, I know we talked about it the other day, that you were mentioning 2 per zone, and that would be over 2 weekends. So in each of these zones, there would just be one person in there at a time, right?
We had kind of talked about that, and I had kind of thrown around the idea where, we have give one person 5 days, the other person 5 days. Jeremy kind of suggested, with this mandatory orientation, we connect the 2 people, and then they figure out when they're going to be there.
That'd be cool. I think they're big enough areas where if they knew each other was out there and had some familiarity with each other, safety-wise and comfort level and whatnot, I think that could work. You just wouldn't want them out there not knowing where the other one was.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
coordinate.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Larson?
Yeah, a question I think for Mr. King, I guess, or really anybody. I'm not a bow hunter. I'm familiar with rifle and, used to be a slug zone here. But we would have pushers. As a kid, you were the pusher. Is that a common practice with bow hunting? Would you see that?
Not with archery, no. And when we went through that orientation, that's where we'd set all those guidelines and rules. And also, even though this is within city limits, all state rules will still apply. So, like Megan mentioned, you still have to have an archery permit from the state. So this would count against your state bag limit. So we'd have to have someone who isn't filled out. And then we would actually, our rules would be even on top of even more strict than what the state offers.
Like we were going to have them wear blaze orange,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, like
Which
we would want to put
for
into our rules
Yeah.
that they'd have to wear one piece of blaze orange clothing, which is not a state regulation for archery hunting. Right. Maybe a hat, just to notify people that they're out there. We talked about deer stands. We would let them put up their deer stand maybe at the beginning of the season, and if depending on how we worked it out, they could only keep it up for that amount of time, and then they'd have to be taken down, and they'd have to have their name on it, and a lot of those small details that the state's already done the legwork for. It was just making sure that everyone's up to speed and making sure that they're following them.
So I guess be good to move forward, I think, everybody? Everybody okay with that? Because if we want to move forward, we're going to have a special meeting right after this to do it. So.
I do sense very strong support from the community. Some who are eager to harvest some deer down there, but others who say the numbers have really gotten out of hand. So we have those 2 groups that say, come on, let's make this happen. And so thanks for making it happen.
All righty. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Nothing else. We'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Moved by Helm, second by Reid. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried and meeting's adjourned. Move on to call to order the special meeting for the City of East Grand Forks for April 23rd, 2024 at 6:13. City Clerk, please call roll.
Mayor Steve Gander.
Here.
Council President Mark Olson.
Here.
Council Vice President Jim Leopold.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Sutter.
Here.
Ben Huttunen. Dale Helms.
Here.
Brian Larson.
Here.
Karen Peterson. Here.
Does turn quorum. Number 1, consider approving the 2024 special deer hunt recommendation form for archery and authorize staff to submit the form to Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. Moved by Reid. Second by Vetter. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Reid.
Yes.
Helms.
Yes.
Olsted.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Peterson. Yes. Better.
Yes.
Carried. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Larson. Second by Helms. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned.